Hi guys, WineTuber here, and in today's video I'm going to talk about 15 Irish whiskey terms that you need to know. So, let's get started. Before we start, many thanks to the Corkscrew Wine and Spirit merchants for helping me with this video. And if you're watching my channel for the first time, please consider to subscribe. The definition of Irish whiskey, it is quite simple. To be labeled as an Irish whiskey, barrels of spirits must spend a minimum of 3 years maturing off the island of Ireland. Speaking of the oak barrels, one of the best things about Irish whiskey is the fact that Irish distilleries have flexibility of using different type of oak for maturing their water of life. For example, Lambay whiskey is finished in cognac cask. Glendalough single cask, it's finished in Calvados XO casks. O'Connell small batch 5 years old is finished in Fino casks. And finally, Teeling whiskey, it's finished in Cabernet Sauvignon red wine cask. Now let's move on to the main topic, which is 15 Irish whiskey terms. Blended whiskey is a combination of 2 or 3 basic whiskey. Single grain, single malt, or single pot still. Bourbon barrels are the backbone of the global whiskey industry, but also the basis for maturation of Irish whiskey. Did you know that the barrels can only be used once to age bourbon, and afterwards they are sold to the other whiskey producers? The bourbon barrels lower the level of tannins, but also the overall impact of oak. Cask is a wooden vessel usually made of oak where whiskey is stored in order to mature. Cask strained whiskey is a type of whiskey that is bottled directly from the cask that was matured in, leading the higher alcohol content, usually over 50% ABV. On the other hand, standard whiskey is diluted to the regular ABV, which must be at least 40% alcohol by volume. One of my favorite Irish cask strained whiskey is Broadlaw Estate 2016 single grain bourbon cask, single cask release. Double barrel is one of the unregulated terms that can be found on the bottle of Irish whiskey. I spoke with few Irish whiskey producers, and one of them said that they use the term double barrel to highlight that their whiskey was matured twice. My favorite double barrel Irish whiskey is a Glendalough aged in bourbon cask and finished in Oloroso sherry barrels. Single cask whiskey refers to the single barrel whiskey, usually a premium class of whiskey whereby each bottle comes from a single aging barrel. One of my favorite single cask Irish whiskey is the Lough De Bridge 13 years old single grain finished in Oloroso cask. Single grain Irish whiskey is typically made from corn, rye, or wheat. One of the most common of those in Ireland is corn, which is typically imported to Ireland from France. Single grain whiskey are made in column still in a single distillery. Irish single grain whiskey are usually the softest and the smoothest of all whiskies. One of my favorite single grain Irish whiskies, Clancola 7 years old, finished in the rum cask. One of the simplest definitions of single malt is that the single malt whiskey is produced by the single distillery only from 100% malted barley and usually distilled in a pot still. Please note that a single malt can be double or triple distilled. One of my favorite Irish single malt, it's Donville's 12 years old, finished in PX cask. Single pot still whiskey is produced in Ireland since 18th century and is one of the most unique style of Irish whiskey, as it's produced from malted and unmalted barley. One of my favorite single pot still whiskey, it's Powers Jones Lane, 12 years old. By the way, if you'd like to learn more about this unique style of whiskey, which is single pot still whiskey, click the link above or one in the description below. Small batch whiskey is an unregulated term and in fact can be produced in the large volumes compared to the small batch American whiskies. In reality, Irish small batch whiskey is in fact entry-level whiskey and has nothing to do with the small production. However, there is so many fantastic examples of small batch whiskey available on the market, and one of them is Hinch, produced in County Down. The definition of peated whiskey is quite simple, means that the barley was smoke dried using peat. Peated whiskey is given a smoky flavor by compounds which are released by the peat fires used to dry malted barley. Apart of smoke, the typical flavors of peated whiskey are tar, ash, iodine and carbolic soap. There are many fantastic examples of Irish peated whiskey, including Connemara, 12 years old, Old Teeling's Blackpitts, but my favorite one is dark Silkie, finished in Moscatel de Setubal cask. Sherry casks are often used for the second maturation of Irish whiskey, known as a finishing barrel. The most common sherry casks used for the Irish whiskey production are Oloroso and PX, which is a sweet sherry. Reserve cask is a very rare term as it's only used by few Irish whiskey producers. And also, like a small batch or double barrel, it's not legally regulated in Ireland. In most cases, reserve cask whiskey is a unique style of single malt, which is not blended and produced from one cask only. My favorite reserve cask whiskey is produced by Lambay, and as far as I know, it's the only Irish whiskey that is finished in cognac cask. Triple distilled whiskey used to be the most common whiskey produced in Ireland, mainly thanks to Middleton and Bushmills distilleries. Nowadays, there is so many Irish whiskey that is only double distilled. Great examples are Tyrconnell, Waterford or Jack Ryan. And Silkie is one of the most unique style of Irish whiskey, which is a blend of double and triple distilled malts. So what is the actual difference between double and triple distilled Irish whiskey? Let me ask the expert.
So hi there, my name is Andy. I would be the spirits manager of the Corkscrew Wine and Spirits Merchants in Dublin. Tomas has asked me to just quickly go through the difference between triple and double distilled Irish whiskey. So there's a common myth that most Irish whiskey, or all of Irish whiskey, is triple distilled, which is not the case, it's just a myth. There are quite a few distilleries that choose to just double distill and other distilleries choose to triple distill. The main factor, the difference in them would be the flavour and the profile of the whiskey. So when you're looking at a triple distilled whiskey, you'll find that it'll take out more of the impurities from the whiskies, whereas double distilled kind of keeps more sort of bolder, richer flavour. The triple distilled would be slightly lighter, a slightly more approachable whiskey, which is why Irish whiskey does very well at the moment. It's a nice sort of whiskey to start your journey if you're just entering into the world of it. That's my take on it. I hope you enjoyed the 30 seconds or so listening to me, and thank you very much.
Virgin oak is also used for the whiskey production, which means that this oak has not been used for the maturation of any alcoholic beverages before. A great example of Irish whiskey finished in virgin oak is the West Cork single malt. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I'm enjoying my Irish whiskey at the moment. The question of the day is, which one is the best Irish whiskey? Is it single grain, single malt, single pot still, or maybe blended whiskey? The answer to this question is that the best Irish whiskey is the one that you like. So, slàinte!